I want to start today's episode with a little bit of art class for you. Let me paint a picture for you, Canada. You work your entire life. You buy a modest home. You fix it up. You raise a family. You pay your mortgage every single month. Through thick and thin, you pay it religiously. You shovel snow. You mow the lawn. You fix the leaky faucet. And you pay your property taxes without fail. You built equity, not by being rich, but by being prudent and responsible, by being Canadian. And now, Mark Carney and the Liberal government, secretly in the background, are starting to look at maybe taking a piece of it. That's right. While the media continues their sycophantic coverage of his polished banker boy persona, the truth is that his spending is spiraling out of control. This we know. And as Canada hemorrhages cash, Mark Carney is also being forced to backpedal on key sources of tax revenue, ones he'll have to make up. The most obvious example, the digital services tax. It was a centerpiece of liberal virtue signaling. They said that it was about making big tech pay its fair share. But as soon as Donald Trump shut down US Canada trade talks over it, the liberals folded like a cheap lawn chair. Now it's being scrapped altogether. And where is that billions of dollars going to come from? Because that's billions of dollars in lost revenue right there. And when liberals run out of tax revenue, they do what liberals do best. They don't cut spending. Oh, no, why would we do that? They just invent new taxes because, let's be honest, when liberals are broke, you pay. And if you're wondering where the next tax grab will come from, buckle up. Because if history tells us anything, it's this: the middle class is always the ATM. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and commenting on this channel. It is helping it grow, and I thank you so much for that. Today, let's start with the most dangerous and imminent threat of all, the home equity tax. You want crisis of a lifetime? Having something like this would be. This isn't just some wild theory anymore. It has been openly discussed in liberal-affiliated think tanks like Generation Squeeze. It's been modeled by the CMHC under Trudeau's direction. And now, as Mark Carney faces a growing budget crisis, not that we've got a budget, if of his own making, the idea of taxing the equity in your primary residence is no longer just a fringe fantasy. It's becoming a very real and very dangerous possibility. They'll say it's about fairness. They'll say, why should someone who's owned their home for 30 years see tax-free gains while others can't afford to buy a home? That's how they'll position this. But fairness is a Trojan horse, because once you let the government into your equity, they won't stop at the wealthy. They'll come after every homeowner in the country. The moment your house value creeps up, boom, you'll owe them money just for having paid your mortgage. That's it. And if you think this is some kind of wild conspiracy theory, let me take you on a brand new tour of two countries that actually tried this: the Netherlands and South Korea. Because they've already walked down this horrific path Mark Carney wants us to follow, and it's not a road, it's a cliff. The secret is they called it something different. The Netherlands, taxing your home like it's a paycheck. Here's what they did. In the Netherlands, the government introduced a system that they called imputed rental value tax. Okay. In simple terms, what the Dutch did here is that this tax authority assumes that because you own your home, you are saving money by not having to rent it. Then they assign a fake rental income to your property and they tax you on that imaginary income every single year. Can you believe this? Think about how crazy that is. You live in your own home. You're not renting it out. You're not earning any money from it. And yet the government is taxing you as if you were, based purely on what they imagine you might save or earn just by living there. This tax hits middle-class Dutch families the hardest, by the way. The imputed value is added to their taxable income, pushing them into higher tax brackets even when their actual income hasn't increased at all. So now they're not just paying property taxes on their home, they're paying income taxes on phantom revenues from their home. revenues that don't actually exist. And what has this led to? Decades of distortion in the Dutch housing market. Home ownership is discouraged in the Netherlands. People delay buying. Others hold off on paying off their mortgages too quickly because the less you owe, the more equity you have and the more you're taxed for it. It's absolutely perverse. And this is where we may be headed. And that's the real lesson here. A home equity tax flips responsible financial planning on its head. In the Netherlands, the more you save, the more you owe. Does that sound familiar? Because it seems to be where Canada's going. In 2023, Dutch economists published a warning. Their home equity taxation system had become regressive, unfair, and a barrier to financial independence. And yet, here we are in Canada with liberal insiders pretending this is some brand new idea, some think tank. Let's get CMHC to look right into it. Well, let's travel on over to South Korea, shall we? The war on home ownership continues over there, apparently. Now, if we look at South Korea, which is another country that went full throttle with home based taxation in the name of fairness and housing affordability, well, it starts to sound very familiar to what we're looking at here. See, to fight soaring real estate prices, the South Korean government introduced a suite of aggressive real estate taxes, including a comprehensive property tax, a speculation tax, and a heavy capital gains tax on short term sales. But the most controversial piece? A steep progressive tax on the appraised value of your home, not your income, your home. This wasn't a one time grab. It was annual, and it got worse the more equity you built. Just like the Dutch system, homeowners were punished for financial prudence. The result? It backfired spectacularly, completely. Middle class Koreans were crushed by the weight of rising home prices combined now with rising new home ownership taxes. The government claimed it was targeting speculative investors, but in practice, regular working families bore the brunt of this attack. Elderly homeowners on fixed incomes were destroyed. They were forced to sell their homes just to pay the taxes. And younger Koreans, well, they gave up on ever owning a property altogether. Public anger exploded. Protests erupted. A national movement formed to repeal or revise the tax regime. And guess what? Despite all those new taxes, housing affordability didn't improve after they implemented them. Not at all. Prices continued to rise, and the tax system failed to curb demand. And it was only choking out the middle class. By 2022, South Korea's new government was forced to roll back the housing tax structure, admitting it had been too punitive and had destabilized the market. I'll take things that don't work with Mark Carney for 1,000, Alex. Now, here we go. There's more, because there's another tax that they're talking about that you may not have heard of. Let's talk about the wealth tax. See, Carney and his globalist crowd love to whisper about this one at Davos cocktail parties. Tax the rich, they say. Make them pay. But here's the dirty secret. Wealth taxes almost never hurt the ultra rich. Instead, they devastate the upper middle class, small business owners, and retirees who spent their lives building something they hoped to pass down. We've seen this fail spectacularly around the world. In France, a wealth tax was implemented in the 1980s. Over the next 2 decades, more than 60,000 millionaires left France. They took their investments, jobs, and capital elsewhere. Revenue fell short of projections by a mile. Innovation declined, and eventually, France repealed the whole wealth tax altogether in 2017, admitting that it was an economic disaster. And here we have a prime minister trying to implement it. Sweden did the same thing. Their wealth tax contributed to capital flight, business relocations, and shrinking investment portfolios. They repealed it in 2007, admitting that it was more economic harm than it was good. Even Germany considered a wealth tax and rejected it outright, saying it would be unconstitutional, incredibly expensive to administer, and devastating to small family-run enterprises. But here we are in Canada, the Liberals and their academic echo chambers are continuing to flirt with this idea along with the home equity tax. Even though it's proven around the world, these two taxes do not work. What they won't tell you is that a wealth tax would hit business owners with tangible assets, farm equipment, trucks, office buildings, tools, or inventory. The very people creating jobs in this country would be hit the worst with a wealth tax. And if you're hoping to pass on the family farm or small business to your kids, good luck. A wealth tax would force many to sell those assets just to cover the government's cut. You're not just taxed on cash in the bank, you're taxed on what you've built. Even if you're land rich but cash poor, you still owe. Even if you're not making any new income, the bill still comes. It would also slam people who invested responsibly in RSPs, TFSAs, or own a second property as a retirement safety net. These aren't tycoons. These are teachers, nurses, contractors, mechanics, and small landlords trying to secure a future without being dependent on government assistance. But that's exactly what scares the Liberals: independence of Canadians. A wealth tax is not about the rich. It's about control. It's about making sure you never get far enough ahead to stand on your own. They want you dependent. They want you waiting. They want you begging for rebates and grants and subsidies because that's how they control you. A wealth tax? It's not about fairness. It's all about power. Folks, this is our red line. Let me be crystal clear. If Carney implements a home equity tax, it will destroy retirement plans for millions of Canadians. If he implements a wealth tax, it will crush small business succession, family farms, and independent professionals alike. And if we don't speak up about all of this now, and we don't do it loudly as we can, it's all going to happen in silence because the Liberals are getting very, very good at this. We've given them lots of time to perfect it. The Liberals will do it through regulation, through budget bills, through pilot programs, through technocratic tweaks to things. You won't even realize it until the tax bill arrives in the mail. And by then, it'll be too late. So if you own a home, a business, a small nest egg, you are the target of this tax blitz. They have to make this money up somewhere, and they're coming after you. So you need to write your MP, demand clarity. Will you oppose, I should say, a home equity tax? Will you vote against a wealth tax? Ask them this in this email. Will you defend my right to own my own home without being taxed into submission? And then share this video. Share it with everyone you know. Liberal or conservative, NDP, doesn't matter. This message needs to reach homeowners, farmers, professionals, and retirees across this country before it's too late. Canada, we need to start standing firm better. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker, and I'm telling you right now, they're not coming for the billionaires. They're coming for you, for your home, for your savings, for your legacy. But if we have anything to say about it, not on our watch. We'll see you tomorrow.